Upgrade! Finally get a chance to see this thing. Starring Logan Marshall Green. Apparently had been in Homecoming and Prometheus. So and I'm guessing in Homecoming he was technically the first Shocker guy, I'm guessing. That wound up getting offed, which, yeah. So, yeah, he needed to probably have a movie where it, for the most part, would wind up going over well for him. And a lot of people have been literally comparing it ever since this movie. A lot of people who, and more so critics, have been comparing this even to the Venom film as being said that this is better than that. Technically, kind of, sort of similar in beats with that, except this is far better as a film in the sense that it comes off more in terms of premise as being sort of like a John Wick meets like RoboCop, but I'm thinking more like not the remake, the first one, but, you know, more updated and, you know, with certain sci-fi, sort of cyberpunkish kind of, more, definitely closer to being a more believable thing with the technology in this film. And for the most part, this film is basically about him getting brutal. Well, this main character is basically on a string of revenge, winds up completely paralyzed, and his wife dies because of someone having hacked into their car or whatever. And he winds up being paralyzed waist down and having to deal with that, and he basically kind of wants to die, essentially, since there's nothing. The only thing that mattered to him was his wife. And eventually he kind of takes over, and of course he has a thing against technology itself. And after this kind of stuff, I wouldn't kind of blame him. And then somehow, through this one guy that he kind of was working for, that he had met a while back, decided to help him out with his situation, and decided to give him this artificial intelligence implant called STEM, allowing him to basically help him from the waist down. But all of a sudden he winds up finding out the thing has the artificial intelligence in it, actually can talk inside his head. And he winds up through all this, winds up going on a revenge spree, and into pulling off some Matrix kind of stuff. And this is a very independent film, and given a small budget, given that it's from Blumhouse, who also technically did films like apparently did films like Get Out. They gave more known for horror films, and most of them mentioning that this producer, essentially Jason Blumhouse, Get Out, Happy Death Day, and the Purge films. Or I guess the first Purge, which most people don't care for as much, and prefer the second film, but I don't know. I've never followed those films, to be honest with them. Fuck. Let me fix this lighting situation. Fuck. Ah, for Pete's sake. Fucking lighting bullshit. Yeah. Fuck it. Fuck it. We do it live. Anyway. But yes. This film is fucking amazing. And I love the lore that goes on in this. Almost as much as I would say Blade Runner 2049, which I know I hadn't reviewed it, but I did see it. I just didn't feel like reviewing it because I was already past the year it had come out. And this was like much earlier in the year when I had seen that film. And with this one, I've been wanting to see this for a while. I finally decided to say, screw it. It's out on DVD. I'm going to get it. And I didn't want to wind up watching it alone. I wanted to see if it was a good experience with friends. And we watched it back at my buddy's bachelor pad of a place. And we all wound up enjoying it. And its ending may make or break people. Especially for those of you who've seen films, especially two particular David Fincher films I'm about to mention, Seven, Gone Girl, or even to the extent of, say, Nightcrawler, or something that is kind of more in line with this, Ex Machina. You could almost say Dread, but not nearly when it comes to endings. Just, I think the way that they handled that world building and that form of technology, and I feel like there's a lot of similarities. It's that meets RoboCop, but I feel it's more Dread-ish, more Dredd-like, more closer to Dredd, like Carl Urban Dredd, not Sylvester Stallone Dredd. And of course, the ending is definitely a little more in that Ex Machina thing. And it has this, compared to most films, it has layers to it. Lots of good layers. And the guy who plays this guy, Gray Trace, Logan Marshall Green, he's probably so far his best performance. I've not seen Prometheus, but I've seen Spider-Man Homecoming, and I barely remember him being in it. So yeah, this is definitely a good breakout role for him. And it has some moments, and it has good action, and it has some elements of horror, but for the most part, it's really more of like an action thriller with some sprinkles of comedy, and kind of goes into the line of horror, but more so kind of in the way of its own ending. At least it's sort of a revenge movie, and it kind of does something to the point where it kind of has a sort of slashery twist. And for those of you who don't want to know the ending because it's already, been out in a while, I'm going to do slight spoil. You'll be warned in 3, 2, 1. So the whole time, everything that's happened, leading up to even to this point, by the time he finally gets his revenge on the people that basically mugged him and killed his wife, the whole time, and the hacking of the car, the whole thing, including what was all by this AI from this other company that was rivaling his wife's, that was essentially the guy that he had been working for, that I guess he tried to do the car for, maybe? I'm not sure. And he wound up having created the STEM project thing, and finally, and also, I forgot to mention, the cop in this that was trying to supposedly help and deal with the murder, she is a fucking terrible cop. So, what ends up happening in the end winds up not really bothering me or even any of my friends when we've seen this. Or my buddy's roommate, who's kind of sort of a friend, and don't see him as much, but he's good. Anyway, and turns out STEM, or the AI that was had been manipulating every event this entire time, and he basically, just as a mere experiment, to take over this man's body, to basically try to take over this man's body, and all he really needed to do was finally possess him, help him get away, force everything from paralyzing him and his wife, forcing him to go into this revenge thing, mostly just to satisfy his need, and basically using his situation to force him to basically help the AI evolve through him, and eventually, by the end of this, STEM kind of takes over, and what winds up being sort of helpful, and the way their dynamic was great, but now by this point it just turns kind of scary and almost horrifying in its own right, but also kind of shows that, kind of represents the best, some of the good, but yet but more so the more horrifying aspects of what would happen in the 30 to 50 years we would have had with this technology. And it's almost kind of funny that of all the people he chooses, the thing is, this AI just wanted to finally know what it was like to be human, and being inside this human, being inside Gray was kind of what he needed to do, and eventually, when Gray tried to fight him off, and then eventually it seemed like he about killed him, and all of a sudden, we're bound back at this hospital, and his wife's alive. Is like, wait, what? The thing that makes the twist work is we find out, as they kind of built into it earlier, when he was about to get paralyzed after the one creator that had the tech of STEM in him was trying to shut him down completely, and then take him as kind of as property because he has it in him. And while he was doing it to try to reboot him, they try to get another hacker to help. In the process, they were around a lot of people who were into this virtual reality thing. And there was talks of how, because he was actually willing to kill himself, and because of all this stuff before he had gained STEM. And yeah, something happens to where he sees his wife in this, and you find out he can move, and it's like, wait, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, you're back from what had happened before. Somehow, STEM finally managed to evolve enough that he found a way to completely take over his entire body. And it took over completely his entire body and mind. And took his mind, his intelligence, and put him inside of STEM into some virtual reality where his wife isn't dead and he can move. And you can kind of tell for a brief period, he's like, wait a minute. Something's not right here. But after that, after a while, he just kind of, after his supposed wife kind of takes him aside and kind of does the thing, he just kind of says fuck it and goes along with it. Because that's kind of what he wanted. He finally sort of gets the closest thing to reality he'll have. He basically kind of pulls that virtual reality thing that was also involved in the conversation during then. Though I did miss a little bit of conversation when it came to the very beginning, which probably would have spoiled a lot, I guess. But there's so much that happens, and the layers that happen, the fact that he's, a man who doesn't like technology, and the other guy just wants to know what it's like, and the STEM basically wants to know what it's like to be human. So in a messed up way, the bad guy kind of wins, which winds up being STEM, this AI, this entire time. But yet somehow our main protagonist we are following, who kind of gets the shittier end of the deal, winds up, because of helping him, kind of sort of gets what he kind of wants, or at least the best and closest thing he can get. So it sort of works, but at the same time, I can see why, if for other people, this ending could piss a lot of people off, especially coming out of the theater. Because technically the bad guy won in reality, and to the extent where more than likely after all this, and eventually after taking over, he winds up shooting the cop. And a lot of other people like me who saw that is like, you know what, the cop sucked. If she had actually done her fucking job right, she wouldn't have, and worked with him instead, I think things would have worked out better, I guess. And it wouldn't have come to this BS or whatever. And he could have moved on. I don't know. But hopefully, I don't know, at least as far as I know, as far as when the movie is, the mother didn't die. She was the most innocent of all this, even though she kind of did what she could with that. But now all of a sudden, like, STEM's basically completely taken over. The AI itself has completely taken over him, and he's now stuck in some virtual, and what was left of, Gray's mind is now in some virtual reality in this world where it seems like he had woken up and is now with this virtual reality version of his wife. He almost may as well kind of left and went to heaven in the best possible way, I guess you could say. But I mean, and now it seems he's finally got what he's wanted, and there's probably nothing out there that's going to be able to stop STEM at all, unless Gray for some reason decides to take back over. But yeah, that's not happening. And I did enjoy certain moments in the film, even the one that was kind of shown in the first film, which was brutal, and probably still the most brutal scene in the entire thing, that wound up in the Red Band trailer. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this film. Despite the way the ending kind of makes me feel, I mean, this film deserves to say it rocks, and it's masterclass. It really does. It's a solid action revenge movie that kind of just goes and does so much more than that, and has a great lore and great use of technology that's believable. Like, almost a more believable sense of, and the way he's kind of being utilized, while all these other people that are technically cyborgs, humans pretending to just have the technology of cyborgs, he's literally just human, but he happens to just have a small enough piece of technology that he can do all sorts of shit. It has that kind of Matrix feel in like a good way, like first Matrix, and And now I'm kind of starting to wonder what's going to happen next. After all this, now that his character's human. But I guess it'll all work out, and for, I guess, whatever's going to happen with that character, I don't know. I guess he's taken over the entire world, I guess. And it's possible that maybe Stem might have, either he's going to wind up dying, or he's going to find a way to clone Gray. I'm not sure what the hell the technology is up there, how crazy it is, to the extent maybe he'll find someone else to kind of take over somehow, and just do another body by making more of Stem and just hacking every human possible. I don't know what, that's just my guess how he possibly could. I don't know. That's just my theory. What are your theories on what Stem possibly could have done next? That could have led to taking over? What little things it could have been? Just out of obviously morbid curiosity. Just leave a comment below. Let me know, I guess. So, as guys, we're going to keep your real carpet rocking. Definitely up there, film of the year. And hopefully, eventually, I might be able to finally see. Eventually, I'd like to still see Spider-Verse. Apparently I got the Super Troopers and Super Troopers 2 bundle. So I'm probably hopefully going to finally talk about Super Troopers 2 at least for film review. Or at least as best as I can with that one eventually, hopefully before the end of the year. That's another one I wanted to. Creed 2 I'm eventually going to get to. And I'm definitely going to try to do Aquaman and hopefully maybe Bumblebee. Maybe. If not, I'll think of something else. I don't know. There isn't too much else that I can think of that I kind of want to see at this point, so. But yeah, that's about it, guys. So, as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. See you in the next video, whatever that may be. Take care, y'all.